Warriors fans, lock in right now because the league is trying to write our season's obituary, and I'm not letting that happen. Jimmy Butler is officially out for the year with a torn ACL, and the national conversation instantly flipped to doom and chaos like Golden State is finished overnight. But here's what they're ignoring. This situation just put Jonathan Kuminga at the center of everything, and Mike Dunleavy basically told the whole NBA, if you make a demand, there needs to be demand, meaning the Warriors will do what's best for the organization, not what the noise wants. And while people are throwing wild deadline scenarios like Giannis to Golden State, the real truth is this. Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. The Warriors just proved they can respond with defense and intensity, and the next 2 weeks can either raise Kuminga's value or unlock him as the piece that keeps this run alive.
Hottest girl in the game.
So hot right now. Shout out to the guys on the set setting this whole thing up. All right, Giannis to Golden State. Sham says that conversation it's intensified. We just talked about. We started the show with it. So, Bucks send Giannis and of course the Nexus over to Golden State, and then they get Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Buddy Hield, Pajemski, and 2 first-round picks. Who says no, Chandler?
I think the Warriors say no. I think that's a lot. Like, I mean, they're giving up Draymond, Buddy, Kuminga, Paz, and 2 picks that could turn out to be extremely valuable with how their season goes and how their future goes. Listen, I'm all for swinging for the fence if you can get a Giannis, and I think right now is the time. There's blood in the water where these teams can attack and throw possible deals like this. I really like this one. I don't see them giving up that much, which is crazy to say.
Really?
We're talking about Giannis here. But it kind of makes sense. And
I kind of like it, Lou. Like, are you? He says
but
no, but you?
That's a lot. If I'm Golden State, I'm saying no. That's a ton. I got to figure out a way to keep Draymond. I think he would be the glue piece to kind of bridge the gap between the Giannis and the Steph Curry and making sure that offense is ran right. You know, you have Jimmy Butler out of the lineup, so you can't really put that in the fold. It's just a lot. You know, you're talking about 4 guys that's played pretty good basketball for you in the Golden State uniform and 2 first-round picks, and you're getting Giannis back. Obviously, we know what Giannis brings to the table. Thanasis hadn't been able to get his feet wet and being a quality player that can move this trade one way or another. So right now, if I'm Golden State, I'm probably saying no to this. That's a lot to give up.
Okay. All right, let's move on. How about this? John Morant to Milwaukee. Now, this is assuming that we get Giannis to stay there. They do need to figure out something then and put somebody around him. So here's what you get. Ja goes to Milwaukee. Oh, no. Bobby Portis, Kyle Kuzma, and a protected first-round pick go down to Memphis. Lou, who says no? I mean, we say no for Portis, but go on.
We say no for our guy Bobby, but other than that, we say no for our guy. But you know, other than that, I'm not really mad at this trade. You know, as we saw what Trae Young and the Washington Wizards were able to do with their deal, this looks very similar. You know, this looks like some really good basketball players and a protected lottery pick going to Memphis for exchange for Ja Morant, who, if you can keep Giannis in uniform and pair him with a Ja Morant, this looks good on paper. I say nobody says no on this one.
Okay. No one says no.
It kind of makes sense and doesn't make sense for both, right? Like Ja Morant, why would the Bucks want Ja Morant when they have this Ryan Rollins kid who's kind of up and coming and basketball-wise doesn't really fit with Giannis?
Move into the 2.
But if you can get a Ja Morant and give up kind of 2 of your serviceable role players and a protected pick, I also don't hate
dare
that.
You refer to Bobby P as just that. How dare
what do
you?
Mean? He's a very serviceable, like
I say no to this
player.
for Bobby. You know what? I'm protecting Portis on this one. No,
I don't want Bobby. I don't want Bobby to go anywhere near that either. But
yeah, first of all, we'll never get to talk to him again.
And I will say, John Morant, like Lou made a good point. Like, look what Trae Young brought in. John Morant's not going to bring in much more, probably less than what Trae Young brought in, if I'm being honest with you. So it kind of makes sense. I don't like the fit basketball wise, John Morant in Milwaukee.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Jonathan Kuminga. Feels like Sacramento is inevitably going to be a part of this. So
anywhere. Anywhere.
Yes. Wait, Malik Monk, Keon Ellis, you're good? You said yes?
Oh, the Kings. I don't know if The
So
Kings would love that. I think the Kings are
Okay.
the definition of a Jonathan Kuminga team. They get their young guy, they can groom him, they have money to pay him. Like they have these contracts with Sabonis and Debo and Levine that they can also get off after this. And teams fancy Keon Ellis a lot right now, and Malik Monk has always been that guy that can come and either start or go get you 20 points off the bench. I think there need to be some sort of pick in there because I still think Kuminga has this like hidden value that everyone knows that's just been tried to be buried. So I think maybe he'd demand a little bit more than that. Um, but I'm saying yes if I'm the Kings
Okay.
for sure because I think Jonathan Kuminga is their guy.
Yeah, and I'm saying no if I'm Golden State. If I bring in a Malik Monk, it's kind of Pods is in that pocket. Buddy Hield is kind of in that pocket. I already I got some bench scoring. I got some guys that I can go to on my bench that can give me scoring or can flex into starters if need be if guys are out of the lineup. I think that's what Malik Monk is. Keon Ellis, I gotta do more due diligence on him out in Sacramento. But if I'm Golden State, it's more of the same for me. I'm saying no on it.
Now, let's talk about what this really is. Because if you're a Warriors fan, you already know how the outside world operates. The second adversity hits, everybody runs to the microphone to announce the dynasty is dead, the era is over, the window is closed, and Steph should be saved from Golden State. That is the laziest script in sports. Because this franchise has lived through every version of "it's over" and still found a way to punch back. And right now, the punchback is not going to look like a perfect fairy tale. It's going to look like grit, urgency, and a team that gets sharper under pressure. First things first, losing Jimmy Butler for the season is a real hit. That's not debate. That's a proven playoff-level player, a physical presence, and a secondary scoring option who changes matchups. The Warriors publicly confirmed he's out with an ACL tear, and that changes the rotation, the timeline, and the margin for error. But the moment this happened, the Warriors also showed you something important. This team didn't fold into silence. They answered with an identity game, forcing turnovers, flying around, and taking the fight personally. That first win after the Butler injury wasn't luck, it was a message. Golden State will not allow the season to be buried by headlines. And that brings us to the real storyline that your clip highlights, Jonathan Kuminga. The words being thrown around are heavy: trade request, doghouse, rocky relationship, fractured beyond repair, all that. Major outlets have reported the trade demand, and that's real. But what makes this moment so explosive is that the Warriors don't have the luxury of letting Kuminga be a side plot anymore. With Butler out, they need athleticism, downhill pressure, and a young wing who can create something when defenses overplay Steph. Whether Kuminga stays or goes, the Warriors need him to matter, right now. That's why Mike Dunleavy's comments were so telling. He didn't slam the door, he didn't promise anything, and he didn't panic. He basically said, we hear the demand, but a demand only works if the market demands you, and we're going to do what's best for the Warriors. That's front office language for leverage. That's Golden State saying, we will not get bullied into a bad deal. If you want out, fine, but we're not handing you the keys to the timeline. And if other teams want you, they're paying the price. Now, combine that with what the analyst in your clip said, and it's exactly right. Every time Kuminga steps on the floor, he's interviewing. Not just for another team, he's interviewing for a bigger role here, too. He put up production in limited minutes, and that's the kind of spark that can change a season. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Steph Curry can still carry, but in the West, you cannot survive on vibes and nostalgia. You need real two-way help. Kuminga has the body, the burst, and the scoring instincts to be that swing factor if the Warriors commit to using him correctly. And while all this is happening, you've got the trade deadline pressure cooker turning up. Rumor culture is peaking, and you're seeing national shows toss out blockbuster scenarios, Giannis to Golden State being the loudest one. Now, is it guaranteed? No. But the reason it's even on television is because conversations about Giannis and Milwaukee have intensified about his future, and that alone turns the whole NBA into sharks smelling blood in the water. And when people start saying Giannis to Warriors, what they're really saying is Golden State is still a destination, still a threat, still relevant enough that the biggest names get attached to them. But here's the positive Warriors angle that fans need to hear. This front office does not have to bet the entire future on one desperate swing. They can evaluate, they can build value, they can let Kuminga play and either prove he's a long-term piece next to Steph or elevate his market enough to bring back something that fits better, without losing the soul of the team. Because the soul matters. That's why the conversation about keeping Draymond in any superstar pairing scenario always comes up. The Warriors don't just collect talent, they run a system, they run a culture. And if you destroy the connective tissue, you don't get championships, you get highlights and exits. So what should Warriors fans be watching over the next couple of weeks? Watch how Kerr uses Kuminga. Watch whether Kuminga responds like a pro and turns this into a statement run. Watch whether the team leans into defense, pace, and spacing to protect Steph from carrying every single possession. And watch how Dunleavy moves, because his quote wasn't just funny, it was a warning. The Warriors aren't operating off emotion, they're operating off value. Dub Nation, this is the part of the season where the real teams show themselves. Not when everything is perfect, when everything gets messy. And if you know anything about the Warriors, you know they've never been scared of messy. They've always been at their most dangerous when people start talking like it's over, because the moment the league relaxes, Steph makes them pay. Now, I want your take in the comments. Should the Warriors ride with Kuminga and expand his role immediately, or should Dunleavy use the next 2 weeks to build his value and make a real deadline move? Hit like if you're still riding with Golden State, and subscribe to Warriors Nation News, because this deadline stretch is going to be loud, and we're covering every twist.